There are mysteries all around us, and we are fascinated by what we cannot understand. Inexplicable phenomena are discovered every day, keeping our curiosity piqued, and the prospect of knowing the world around us as a foreign concept, and yet every day it is possible to find something new and exciting. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be exploring new discoveries from the edge of the Milky Way and the literal surface of the Sun to closer to home in Ukraine, with 3 fascinating finds. Drone survey of Chernobyl's Red Forest reveals radioactive hotspots. Chernobyl, the most catastrophic nuclear disaster in history, is still haunting us more than 30 years on, as researchers discover that the effects of the nuclear damage are still being felt. When the nuclear power plant exploded in 1986, it released 400 times the amount of radiation than the Hiroshima atomic bomb. Now, using drones to map radiation levels in the 1,000 square mile exclusion zone, researchers have found that parts of the previously contaminated area still have dangerously high levels of radiation in certain zones, appropriately labelled radioactive hotspots. More specifically, to map this, a team from the UK National Centre for Nuclear Robotics developed their drone mapping system, which uses a remote laser sensing method known as light detection and ranging, or LiDAR, to reproduce a 3D map of the terrain. They then use a gamma-ray measure to detect radiation levels within the mapped-out area and repeat the process until the whole exclusion zone has been covered in sections. Their results showed the worst radiation levels to be in the Red Forest, fittingly named after the nuclear explosion caused all its leaves to turn red. Located a mere 0.3 miles from the explosion, it was always likely to have been affected by high levels of radiation, but finding such high levels more than 30 years on was certainly a surprise to the research team. Furthermore, many of the radioisotopes found at the scene are known to have extremely long half-lives. As such, we can and should expect this area to maintain these dangerously high radiation levels for quite some time to come. As if this wasn't worrying enough, add the fact that the authorities had no idea that the hotspots existed until these measurements were carried out. As a result, over the years, as radiation levels were thought to be steadily decreasing, tourists have been gradually allowed back into the exclusion zone from 2011 onwards. With no idea that these hotspots existed, both authorities and more than 70,000 tourists per year have been put at risk. Without the proper research and curiosity, who knows what other things that we may be assuming incorrectly, and how dangerous they may or may not be. Fossil spiral arms found in the outskirts of the Milky Way. A new set of enormous fossil structures have been found at the outer regions of our Milky Way, with astronomers now having to work to understand how it has gone undetected for so long. The new discovery is all thanks to technology from the European Space Agency. Their Gaia Observatory, first launched in 2013, is part of a project which can map parts of the Milky Way in 3D, with the highest precision seen to date. Gaia does her work by orbiting the Sun-Earth L2 Lagrangian point, which offers a gravitationally stable point created by the dynamic between the Sun and Earth. It also provides a suitable vantage point for her to observe the Milky Way, studying the stars for as long as it takes, and mapping changes in positioning and other movements in the galaxy. Over time, by tracking these displacements, Gaia can determine, with high accuracy, the distances to these observed stars. Previously, such data gathering was simply done from Earth. However, atmospheric differences have been known to interfere with data, making it much less reliable. Further proof of this is discoveries such as this one, where Gaia has revealed various galactic structures that we had no prior knowledge of. This time, the exact discovery is thought to be some kind of fossil spiral arms, most likely what is left from disruptive gravitational forces from nearby dwarf galaxies, astronomers think. This fits with some of Gaia's other similar findings, which have brought to light smaller galaxies that have over time been absorbed into the Milky Way, making them pretty much invisible up until now. The detail of the galactic mappings Gaia is able to provide makes for an exciting future. Who knows what else there is to discover about our very own galaxy. The Parker Solar Probe is the first spacecraft to touch the Sun. Last week, scientists made a monumental announcement. For the first time in history, a spacecraft has quite literally touched the Sun. The now infamous spacecraft, NASA's Parker Solar Probe, has been on quite the journey to achieve this. Think of a picture of the Sun. We all know the fiery dynamic outermost layer of the Sun, which seems to spit fire, hovering around the actual molten star. Well, this is what the upper atmosphere of the Sun, called the corona, and the Parker Solar Probe flew through back in the April of 2021. Since then, the spacecraft has taken its time, going back and forth between its orbit and the Sun's atmosphere, sampling the particles and magnetic fields around the Sun, making the most of a position no other spacecraft has ever been in before. Gathering data that further spacecrafts would not be able to sense, it has been reported that at certain points, Parker Solar Probe was visible flying through the corona during a total solar eclipse. The announcement made in December was to flag this April milestone, the crossing into the outermost region of the Sun's atmosphere. More scientifically, this means that Parker Solar Probe crossed what is known as the Alvan critical surface. The Sun does not actually have a solid surface, however it does have an established boundary defining its geographical and massive presence. This boundary, the Alvan critical surface, is measured by observing the point at which solar materials bound to the Sun by gravity and magnetic forces comes to an end. Solar material with enough kinetic energy to break through the Sun's gravitational and magnetic forces become part of the Sun's solar wind, which is part of its corona layer. As such, the Parker Solar Probe's journey into the corona meant that it had officially crossed this surface boundary into the solar wind, and thus the spacecraft had ventured into the region where the Sun's forces came into full effect. The Parker Solar Probe made some more interesting discoveries too. Contrary to what you may think, the Sun's surface is neither smooth nor satisfyingly round. Instead, it has spiky peaks and troughs, and the edges are more wrinkled than smooth. On its first visit, the spacecraft only stayed in the corona for about 5 hours. However, it then proceeded to return to the Sun's surface twice more before venturing further into its orbit. It is exciting to think about what the Parker Solar Probe and others similar to it in the future will continue to discover as repeated trips through the corona are inevitably made in years to come. The Sun and the Milky Way in many ways define Earth's existence in different ways, and yet we are still in the process of constantly discovering and learning about things so important to our own planet. But what do you make of these recent discoveries? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comments section below and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.